No matter what you think, prices will always tend to go up. Because if that was the case, you'd still be buying homes for $100,000, right? You're not.
If you do things for the money, you will have no money. I don't know it verbatim.
Right.
But if you do actions and processes and you do things to gain something, you will gain nothing. But if you do things simply to help other people, you will gain everything.
Right. And you deal with a lot of first-time home buyers. You know, what is it that you see out of them that they're really trying to get to? Is it because they want to buy their first home? Is it because they had a baby? Welcome to Millionaire Moves with Mike Mendiola. We talk about all things wealth building. I'm here with my good buddy.
Hey guys, I'm Gabe Svedra. I am with the Ferris Realty team. I'm a realtor out here in the North Houston area. We're gonna dive into a couple of things today. Mike's got a long list. I'm gonna kind of just wing it. I wish I had notes, but I don't. So you're gonna get full authentic Gabe today.
I'm also a mortgage broker. I've been in the mortgage industry now for over a decade. You know, I've helped thousands of homeowners all over the nation and particularly here in Texas. So we're going to dive into all of that. We're going to go in and we're going to look at what the market looks like today. So Gabe, on some of the things that we're seeing out there and you're seeing, because I know I see things from our mindset, but as a realtor, like what are the challenges you're running into out there?
I think it's really a case-by-case basis, but what I would say is ultimately finding the desire to move with these people that are out in the marketplace. I had a conversation with somebody earlier, and there's a ton of things going on with not only having to sell their house and them needing to move because she can't physically walk upstairs, but in the current economy, and we can't point fingers at like, this is who it is, and this is who it is, and this is the worst guy in the world. But the biggest problem right now is there's a huge gap in people that bought their homes, you know, a couple of years ago, and they still have not gained much equity because they bought here and the market has done this number. I think that's the biggest thing right now is there's people that are needing to move and people are taking losses on not just work. There's several people getting laid off, especially out here, but there's people that are losing money on their home and they have to move. So being a realtor and really consulting with people in regards to like, hey, this is what you're gonna net on the front end and really preparing them for the worst case scenario, it create that vision for clients. I think that's the hardest thing right now because in absolutely no case is it just one of those markets where you can say, you know what, let's go look at open houses and buy a house today. It's just not one of those markets.
Right, and it's one of the things that's where you have a buyer that has to move because they've either been relocated or whatever, and then they're gonna lose money on the sale of the home, right? Because the market has dipped a little bit and prices are going down. And it's like, so when you're facing that challenge and then they come to us on the mortgage side and they do not have, you know, that 20% to put down, right? Or even if we go 5%, you know, it's like, that's where we run into a lot of the challenges and then you're trying to put a square into a circle, right? And it doesn't fit. And you're on the other side of that where it's like, I know that you want this amount, but this amount doesn't exist in this current market. You know?
It's just one of those weird times, you know? Mortgage applications are down, home purchases are down. The amount of loan officers with what Mike does, a mortgage broker, and the amount of realtors that are in the industry is continuously coming down year over year, especially this year. It's been one of the hardest markets I think we've ever been in. Granted, Mike and I have still had a lot of success. I'll sell over 20 homes this year. Mike's going to do, I don't even know how many loans.
I mean, we're still on pace to crush it for this year.
You know? So like, there's still people moving within the marketplace. It's just one of those things to where the good people will absolutely thrive and the people that just continue to complain about the market will continue complaining about the market. I think it's one of those things. And their clients are going to see that or the lack thereof. When those people do finally start to work with clients, it's going to be hard to portray what this market is doing. I think it's still a market where there's a ton of opportunity out there, especially on the purchasing side. On the sales side, that's where it gets a little bit harder. But I have a couple clients right now that have sold and they purchased their homes back in, you know, 07, 08, even, you know, 2010, and they're still walking away with plenty of money.
Yeah, because we saw during COVID, everything spiked, right? So if you're fortunate enough to buy during that time or even before that time, then yeah, you're sitting pretty. But if you bought during COVID and you're having to relocate now, you know, it's just, for the lack of a better word, it's just bad timing. And the market will eventually get better, but in the current condition it's in, it's like, yeah, you are going to have to be realistic with your expectations right now. So.
And I always say it's one of those things, I know we'll get to this next question, but it's one of those things that I tell everybody I meet with, even though it's a home run, they love me, they want to work with me, I will say, hey, go and interview with somebody else. Go get a second opinion on anything, whether it's selling your house, whether it's buying a house, whether it's leasing an apartment, whatever it may be, go get a second opinion because I'm very educated on the market. I stay active within the market. I do this full time. I don't have any other things that I do. So I'm able to feel these shifts in the market. And obviously Q4 is always when everybody says the real estate market dies, which in some cases it does. There's a lot less activity, but there's certainly still activity. People are buying homes every day. People are born every day.
Right.
So there's still movement.
And funny enough that you say that is because as mortgage applications, they may be down. We saw a spike last month of them going back up. And where are we seeing that spike? It's still from people out west. People are still moving to Texas.
Yeah.
And it's not just small numbers. Most of our applications, I'd say even something like 30 to 40% are people from out of state that are looking to move to Texas. So even as people say that the market may be down, people are still coming here. So maybe nationwide, you may be seeing dips of it in other places, but not so much in Texas.
Yeah. And one of the most important things I would say, the two things that Mike and I offer that sure everybody else offers, but you have to make sure you have somebody that's active in the marketplace. These Westerners that are moving out, or even people from the north, northeast, wherever it may be, if you're a first-time home buyer, you're a renter right now, and you're really iffy about getting into a home, sit down and consult with both of us. We'll take you through the market. I can run you through what the Woodlands market is, the North Houston, Montgomery County market overall. Really, I would say all of Houston. I personally, I guess we should have kind of gotten into this. I grew up in the Woodlands. I grew up in Montgomery County, so I can tell you all the best golf courses, the best pit stops while you're heading to Dallas or, Katy, wherever it may be. I can help you out with that. Mike's been here forever as well. But we really do service most of the Houston area. There's a couple of areas I personally won't touch. All that to say, I think if you're a first-time home buyer, you are a renter, this market is still a great market because there's homes that have been sitting on the market that have not sold.
Right. And they're still sitting there. And it's like, okay, what do you do? And it's like we have incentives on our side as a lender to try to entice people to, maybe it's not going to cost so much if we can give you an incentive to buy that home, right? To get maybe an incentive to the seller to sell that home at a realistic price, right? So there's a lot of things that we can do and we work together to get there and get you guys to buy that home. And still right now, what everybody says about rates and things of that nature, it's still a great time to buy because you're going to buy while prices are down. No matter what you think, prices will always tend to go up. Because if that was the case, you'd still be buying homes for $100,000, right? You're not. You're going to buy your home today. The market is what it is, and then prices will eventually go back up. And if you're in that home, just like a lot of people were that bought in 2010, and they are now in their home, and their home is now doubled in price.
Yeah.
It's real estate, right? Long-term investment. If you're looking to flip houses and move every 2 to 3 years, well, then you're going to run into some instances, and you're not on the market, right? You're very market specific. So either you got to tackle it while it's hot, or you cool off while it's down, like it is right now.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things with you, Gabe, I know that you've had some really instances where I think you had a really tough loan, or not even a loan, it was like a property, right? Where you had was it a VA?
I've had several VAs.
The assumption, right?
The one you're talking about is a VA assumable loan. That's one of those, guys, if you're a real estate professional watching this, please comment down below if you've done an assumable loan. Let us know what your experience was. This one was one of those where, like, even my dog was telling me it wasn't going to make it to the closing table. I mean, seriously, like from day one, everybody was like, just throw in the hat, like you're done for. 45 days later, we ended up closing on that VA assumable loan. So that's why I say it's so important to sit down and really dive in with a professional in this industry, because my clients would not have moved, and we were absolutely on the same page if we couldn't find an assumable loan. I mean, how common are they? They're so few and far in between.
And the thing is, most people are just not educated on it. No. Right, and it is a great product if you can swing it, because typically what an assumption loan is, right? Because you can do it with a government loan, which is a VA or a FHA loan. So say somebody owes $300,000 on their property, but they want to sell that property for $400,000. Well, the assumable, and they have say a 3% rate on that $300,000. Well, Joe's coming over and he wants to buy that house, but he wants that 3% rate, right? He's going to get to keep it on that $300,000. Now, the other $100,000 that the seller wants, either he can finance that and get a second lien, or he can pay cash. And so now he's got that $300,000 with that 3% rate, and he gets to assume that loan and keep going, right? It's one of those products that people don't talk about enough and people don't advertise it enough, but if you can get into it, and it's a great product, and it helps both the client, which is the seller, and the buyer. And like I said, and Gabe got one done when everybody told him he couldn't do it. So hats off to Gabe.
It was one of those to where it was the hardest deal I have ever done to date. My clients were so appreciative of it. And there was so much required from not only me as the realtor, but also my clients and also the mortgage lender Because with the assumable, I'm not able to resort out to Mike and say, hey, help us with this, give me more guidance. Like, Mike has no hands on this. No lender other than the current lender on that loan has access to it. Right. So I can only call Mike and say, hey, I have this, can you help me with it? And he's like, I don't have any of this stuff in front of me.
It's like I can't help with that particular case, but I can kind of educate you a little bit on how the system works. And
exactly.
How it works.
Yeah.
And that's about all I can do, but I can't see the numbers, I can't see the loan, but I can help as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was an awesome deal. They're paying, it was close to $1 million house. It's on an acre, super nice area out in Tomball. And they're paying close to what a $500,000 mortgage would be in today's market. So there's a ton of opportunities out there. You just have to have somebody that is able to, one, weather the storm of finding that, and two, weather the storm of actually getting you to the closing table. Because I think, and this will probably piggyback us right into the next question, but one of the things that, especially when I talk to newer agents, everybody's like, I don't want to sell. I don't want to come off too salesy. That's fine. Ultimately though, our end goal is to get you into a house. If Mike comes to me and he's like, I want to buy a house, my goal is to sell him a house. And it's not like, cha-ching, used car dealership, I got him. It's like, no, dude, you came to me and you said, I want this, this, and this because we're having a baby, or, you know, I can't get up the stairs, or we're going through this financial hardship and I need to move. It's our job to sell you a house or sell your house for you.
Right. And that's the one thing, right, that you always hear. Don't be transactional, be relational. Mm-hmm. Because I'm telling you right now, if you're transactional, the people are going to see it.
Yeah.
Right? If it's all about the buck and that's all you're trying to get to, people are going to read right through that and they're not going to do business with you. And you probably won't make it long term. Everything has to be relational. And like in my personal experience, I don't do anything for the actual money. I do it because I enjoy doing what I do. And at the end of the day, if people are taken care of, the money will take care of itself.
It's just like that quote I put in our meeting yesterday. If you do things for the money, you will have no money. I don't know it verbatim.
Right.
But if you do actions and processes and you do things to gain something, you will gain nothing. But if you do things simply to help other people, you will gain everything.
Right. And when you're doing it, there's so much more than just the dollar. It's knowledge and wisdom, and you're finding out ways that the next time something comes up, you know how to navigate it because you've been there before. Yeah. Right. And it's like, but if you're transactional and it's just like, I'm trying to pay my rent this month. Mm-hmm. And I'm just trying to get this person on the hook. You may get that person, but I promise you the next one's going to know exactly what you're doing and they're going to bounce to somebody else.
It'll show. When you call somebody or you sit down with somebody and seriously talk to them about purchasing a home or making an investment in any sense, you'll feel when somebody just wants your money. There's been several times in a very hard market where I could have probably sold close to 40 homes. I'm going to be right there in that 25 to 30 range.
Yeah.
I could have said, yeah, let's do it. I need a paycheck. But I said, no, let's wait, hold off.
Right, and one of the things that I see on my side, especially with first-time home buyers, and I see from other realtors, is that they're hungry and they're starving and they just need a deal. Well, and so now they're trying to force somebody that really isn't ready, right? Either somebody has really low credit, somebody that doesn't have any money, they don't have a work history behind them, but they're barely on the edge and they're trying to force the issue. And it's just like, hey, these people can buy because it's never a no. It just might be a no right now, but let's get them in a better situation. And then that's where you can run into it where it's like, no, what we're trying to close them like this month. Well, they're not really ready this month. So now you're trying to throw everything at the wall and just hoping something sticks. And that's not really doing a good service for your people. At least that's how I feel. And you deal with a lot of first-time home buyers. You know, what is it that you see out of them that they're really trying to get to? Is it because they want to buy their first home? Is it because they had a baby?
I think there's a lot of different things. Being a college student myself, I think there was a lot of preconceived notions about what you're supposed to do after you get an education or after you get your first, what all of my friends called growing up, a big boy job. You move out, you get yourself into a mortgage, you have kids, you go ahead and buy that new truck, and then boom, right after you get out of college, you're in $300,000 worth of debt. But you're living the life. And I see that from a lot of clients, and there's absolutely been a gap in what I would consider a starting wage or a starting salary. I think there's a lot of And we're blessed in this sense that in the area that we service, there's a lot of people that have great upbringings and they have great employment opportunities. That's one of the biggest pros about being in the Houston area and more importantly in Montgomery County. But I think the most important thing is that these people think it's what you're supposed to do and it's the right thing to move into a home right after you get out of college, go ahead and get married. Not that I have any, I'm just going to actually, let's take that one out. Because I don't think there's anything wrong with getting married. I think there's something wrong with jumping the gun on buying a house. If you have the funds, and Mike's really the one to talk to and dive into the numbers as far as what you should put down. Because if you have a great credit score, and I'll let him talk about this, but if you have a great credit score, there's something called mortgage insurance premium.
Right.
It really just depends because when I talk to first-time home buyers, they're like, we need to put 20% down because we can't pay an additional $500 to $600. I sometimes hear $1,000. I don't know where they get that from in mortgage insurance premium a month because we can't put 20% down. And that myth has been busted time and time and time again because if your credit score is good, you have all the good financials, then the mortgage insurance premium isn't going to be a big thing.
Right, it isn't a killer. It kills you whenever you're on that edge of 660.
Yeah.
Right, and you're going conventional because you don't want to go FHA. Well,
660 credit score.
Right, 660 credit score. So it's like now you're on the edge, but now your mortgage insurance is really expensive.
Yeah.
Because you could go FHA. We typically like to take people to a credit score of 680 and go conventional. But you know, if I'm a young buyer, me personally, and it's something I try to do with I'm teaching my kids, maybe this is good education for realtors as they're navigating like young first-time home buyers. You know, I know that you want the picket fence and you want the single family home and everything and your wife and the kids and all that, but you're young. You have your whole rest of your life to worry about, you know, having that big mortgage payment. Look into a duplex, look into a townhome or something, especially people up north. Find a townhome, rent out the basement. And people that are here in the South, look at a duplex, a triplex, right? Or even a quadplex. Rent out the other units. And you can do that both conventional and FHA. And now you have people all around you that are paying your mortgage for you. So now you're not stuck or like, hey, I lost my job, what am I gonna do? And especially when you're young. If you know what you're going to do at 21, 22, 23 years old, and you've got your life planned out, great for you. But that's not reality. Most people don't, right? So if you get yourself and then you have a job and it doesn't work out and you got to bounce to the next one, well, you got a safeguard because you got another person paying the mortgage on the other side that you're using as income that's helping you pay your mortgage.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a nice kind of like safety net. And that's what I would do. And not only that, you're building wealth because now you have two sides that are building. And long term, that's going to be great rental income for you to use towards your next property.
Yeah.
That's what I would try to teach younger people if you could get your hands on it.
I think a lot of people get off on the wrong foot too. Do you know how old the average first-time home buyer is now?
Yeah, I want to say like around 35 years old.
Yeah, I was going to say 35 to 38, I think is what I've heard. We had a client earlier this year that was going through the pre-approval process. He's 19 years old, 19 years old, trying to buy his first house. Mind you, this is what I tell him, because he calls me. It was actually a buddy of mine's buddy, a friend of a friend called me and he said, hey, I need your help. I heard you're the guy. Do you help my other buddy buy a house? I need your help. I'm like, okay, well, run me through it. And he's like, I want to buy a house. I'm like, okay, great. So we go through a little bit of stuff because I always like to really set the expectation of what the conversation you're going to have is going to look like with Mike. And this can really be anywhere in the US, but we talked about it and he's like, you know, I'm in between buying land and I'm in between purchasing a house. And we went through both avenues. He ended up settling on purchasing a house because he wanted to grow his family.
Right.
He had a lot of other stuff that he had going on. He was super busy with work, so he wasn't going to have time to, one, clear the land, be out there and make sure that the builders are doing good when they're building the house, all these different things, right? So he talks to Mike, and the numbers made sense, but here's the thing. He was 19 years old. And it's a huge thing to tie yourself into a knot essentially for 30 years to purchase a house. And I remember I was at the gym when he called me. He said, like shaking, he's like, I don't know if I can do this. I said, okay, what happens if you don't?
Right.
Nothing. I stay at home. Okay, well then stay at home. And it was one of those things to where he took a step back and he was like, what? I was like, do you know how old the average first-time home buyer is? And I told him it was 38. Right. I think that's what it is. It's in there. And he's like, no, I didn't even know that. I'm like, dude, just give yourself time. Yeah. Okay. So I think there's a lot of people out there, and not to play into this, I don't ever want to victimize anybody, but one of those things where you need to give yourself some grace. We're living in a time period where it hasn't ever been more expensive to purchase a home. So if you are a younger individual and you're looking into purchasing a home and it feels like it's out of reach, and you hear all these people, especially on this podcast, talking about growing your wealth, don't think you're too far behind.
Right.
There's still steps you can take in order to either be a first-time home buyer, be a first-time investor, and grow your wealth to ultimately be a millionaire. I think that's where a lot of us younger individuals get off on the wrong foot. So
well, and I think with the with y'all's current generation and with all the social media stuff out there, you see everybody's seeing what's out there, and they're like, oh, that's attainable, but they forget that the work that goes into it, and it's like, hey, that stuff didn't happen overnight. You build to that, right? And the fact that you're at a young age and you're wanting to build to that, well, then you're in the right mindset, right? Because you're not waiting until you're 30, 35 years old to try to start doing that. You're doing it at an early age. But you got to understand that what you're seeing on social media isn't reality, right? It's going to take years to get there. It's going to take a lot of wisdom. It's going to take a lot of failures, right? You're going to have a lot of failures, and that's okay, right? That's how you learn. You just keep working towards that. And then when you're talking about first-time home buyers, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see that they make right out of the gate?
Getting their parents' opinion. That's a hard take.
Yeah.
It's a very hard take, and some of you parents just, turn this off. That's fine, okay? I have a dad, I have parents, I have grandparents. We all know how it is. But it's, I gotta tell you, it's when the parents come. I love it. I love meeting the parents. The parents turn into a second part of the family as well for me, because all my clients turn into family. But it's one of those things where dad, at some point in his life, bought a house back in 1976 for the right price of $62,000. Right. And this house doesn't have the right type of mortar in the brick.
Yeah, it's not built right.
It's going to fall down when there's one gust of wind, and we need to offer $100,000 less.
Yeah, the one thing that I get a lot too is we'll be working on a mortgage, and we're always competing, right? It's just the nature of the business. But then I'm like, well, I found out that my uncle's brother also does mortgages, and I think we're going to go with him. I'm like, well, how much is your uncle's brother doing it as a side thing, or is he really a mortgage lender, right? Because now you've got a part-time guy, and he doesn't know everything that's going on. Go with the guy that does it every day and is specialized, right? He's going to know a lot more than your uncle's brother. Yeah. So that's one of the things that we get a lot. And of course, you can't argue it, right? Because it's up to them. All you can do is give them your pitch and say, hey, make sure to look out for these things, because on your file you have these, and these. So make sure that that's being addressed, right? So you don't want to give them the secret sauce, but you don't want to set them up for failure at the same time.
And I think this is case by case, but I think a lot of people fall for, I don't even know what you would call it, man. I think there's a joke within our industry, and if you're in the industry, you'll know, but the agent that is rocking the Rolex, and he's rocking the brand new Mercedes, and he's rocking the Gucci shoes, and he's rocking all this stuff, he probably hasn't sold that many homes.
Right.
It's just a joke we have. There's agents that are absolutely rocking people's world, and they're wearing all that stuff. But I would say you need to seriously hold whoever you're working with. Hopefully it's Mike and I. Yeah. But you need to hold them seriously accountable for everything they do. There's a lot of people that put on a beautiful picture, put on a great show, and at the end of the day, they have absolutely no clue what they're doing. And I think it's one of those things to where, as a purchaser, you have to understand what due diligence you're going to do. And I think it's in the form of asking questions like, how leveraged are you? Mm-hmm. Ask somebody that and see what they say. Because here, like with my team, we're almost 70 people strong. I think we're actually over 70 people strong now. We have a full content creation space. Like, we have, not shameless plug, we have one of the largest YouTube channels, if not the largest YouTube channel in Houston. We also have mortgage pros that are in the office with us. Mike being him. We have all these different vendors to where if Mike called me and he's like, hey, we have a client that needs this, or hey, I have a cousin that needs this, can you help me out? I have a full list of vendors going from pool builders to plumbers to roofers to you name it, landscaping people, dirt cleanup, like whatever it may be. I have a full list of them, and they're 4 deep. So we got like first string, second string, third string, fourth string. So I think it's one of those things to where you have to really dive into how leveraged somebody is, because you're not going to know how much you need it until you need it. And when you need to go and see a house and that agent hasn't set the expectation with you that, hey, they might be going on a trip. I have a hunting trip next week.
Right.
I'm working with 12 active clients right now, 4 of which are listings. It's one of those things where I've already set that expectation. And if I have one of those 8 buyer clients that need to go and see something, I have 70 people that I can call and they'll be there like that. My clients don't have to wait. They don't have to go see a home with the listing agent who doesn't care about them, or
Yeah.
they're just trying to sell the house for their client. Good on them, but
they're not worried about the buyer.
Exactly. And it's one of those things where I think you have to really get yourself into a position where you're working with somebody that's one, experienced, has leverage within their team, and has knowledge.
Yeah. And we have it on the mortgage side too, right? You see the guy come up and like he said, in the really nice car, and he's got the suit on, he looks great. And then you got me. I got a ball cap on, I'm a casual guy, but let us sit side by side next to each other and let's have a conversation with an individual. And I promise you, when they leave my conversation, they're going to walk out a lot more knowledgeable than when it came in, right? And so it's not always about the look. You don't want to look like a slob, but at the same time, it's like, be wary if they got the Rolex and they got the gold chains and they got
There's nothing wrong with it. Let's just say that. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. There's a time and place. I'm one of those people that I'll wear a suit every now and then. And
Gabe dresses up. He looks good, you know, and it's like, I don't do it so much anymore when I have to, but you know, it's one of those things, right? And it was when I first got in the industry, they told me, fake it till you make it. And it's like, okay, well, that's one way to fake it. If you look like $1 million, you got to be worth $1 million, right? So it's a good way to be.
I think it's definitely something to consider. They got a nice tie on, like, say what's up or something.
I saw your tie last week.
It was nice, dude, Brooks Brothers.
Yeah, it was a nice tie. You're like, I got to wear this tie, right? So,
I was negotiating an offer on another hard deal, which we got accepted. Come on, give me some doubt.
We got it.
But it's one of those things to where, like, I won't even get into that, but I wear a suit and a tie, especially on the days that I am negotiating in what I would call, for lack of a better term, like a Harvey Specter mode. Nobody's going to beat me.
I saw Gabe and I'm like, man, you're all suited up today. What's going on? He's like, it just felt like a suit day.
Yeah,
right?
it's
like,
if you're one of my clients and you're one of Mike's clients or you're one of just our team's clients, we're going to represent you in the way that we will absolutely swing at some heads to get you the best deal possible and make sure your best interest is protected. And we absolutely don't make it seem like that on the surface, but we absolutely do it.
and so one of the things that I get a lot right now is like, you know, should I buy a home right now or should I wait? And it goes back to like, I think it's still a great time to buy because you're going to buy in a lower market. But when it comes to you and your buyers, what are you guiding them on? Are you trying to push them at the moment to buy? Or are you saying, you know, rates are high, it's going to cost $3,500 for this home. Maybe long term it's a little cheaper. Maybe we see prices come down. Maybe they go back up. Because I'm under 100% that as we're noticing the jobs market really start dropping, right?
Yeah.
And with the jobs market starts dropping, the economy is going to start dropping, which is a good sign for mortgage rates, but not a great sign for the economy, right? As those mortgage rates drop, then people are going to be more enticed to buy because they're like, hey, I can afford this home now. But at the same time, the back end of that is like people are losing their jobs, right? So are you going to be one of those people? But you can see a lot of people jump in and then you're going to notice prices of homes go back up. At least that's the prediction.
I hold my clients accountable for what their goals are.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way. I don't ever push anybody to buy or to sell. But if a client has set out and has partnered with me to purchase a house, there is definitely a slight, this is a good deal, let's go for it, and walking them through what it would look like if, because everybody's talking about mortgage rates coming down. I hear it all the time and I absolutely shut it down like that. 3%.
Well, it's happened like for the last 2 years.
Let's wait for mortgage rates to get back to 3%.
Rates are going to drop. I'm like, they're not going to drop, man. Buy the house if you're going to buy a house, right?
I think that's where it comes into, what are you purchasing the house for? People aren't going out and just buying a lake house for the fun of it. Right. People aren't moving from one house in the neighborhood to another for the fun of it. Maybe they are if they're a high earning individual and they have a lot of equity in their home, but there's really not a whole lot of, for what I would consider the normal home buyer in today's market, there's not a lot of people just doing it to do it.
Right.
There's really not. Yeah. And I would say there's an element of let's get a move on purchasing, especially in Q4, because there's a couple of things. There's a lot of home sellers that have been sitting on the market since Q3, waiting to sell. They're ready to sell. If they still have their home on the market and it's the holiday season, they probably are pretty motivated to sell it. But the other thing too is new builds. I feel like a lot of people don't take this into account. If any of you guys have ever bought a car, I'm sure 99.9% of you guys don't ride around on bikes, and if you do, all glory to you. I'm sure you have huge quads. But here's the thing. If you have bought a car, if you go in at the end of the month or you go in at the end of the year, typically you're going to get a better deal. Why? Because they want to go ahead and move last month or last year's inventory. That's what we see a lot in these newer communities and these new build homes towards the end of the year as they start to give heavy discounts. There's some that are doing $150,000 off of what that MSRP was.
Yeah.
So I think there's great deals in that sense.
And I've seen that, right? Like somebody will bring it to me and they're, hey, it's a new build and they're going to give $100,000, but the price is going to be this. But if they don't take the $100,000, the price is this. And I'm like, well, which one is it? I can use part of it to buy down the rate, but what makes more sense? Probably the lower price, right?
Yeah.
So,
and I think something a lot of mortgage pros in general, or let's just go ahead and direct this to the general public. I think something a lot of people aren't taking into account when they hear these fancy words like buy downs or lower interest rates, they jump on it like it is the best thing since sliced bread. And I think what you really need to go ahead and take into consideration is however much you're putting down on this buy down, you need to make sure that you're going to be in that house for long enough to even make it make sense.
Right.
There's a lot of people that are putting $50,000 into their mortgage. Let's say it only lowers it $150. I'm not even going to do the math in my head right now. It's a little late, but I guarantee you're not going to be able to pay that off or get your money's worth, that $50,000, by the time you go ahead and turn around and sell that house. You're just not. The average person that lives in their house in today's market, it's about 6 to 9 years.
Yeah, I would say roughly around 7 years. But that's one of the things is like, oh, but this guy quoted me a 6.2. Or I can get 5.9, and I'm like, all right, but I can do a 6.3. Like, let's look at it, and you'll be amazed because it's like $50 a month, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, you're battling over $50 a month where you're going to refinance anyway.
Yeah.
Like anybody that's buying a home today is going to refinance if rates do drop.
Yeah.
So now you're holding everything hostage and you're paying this extra money to get that 5.99 rate. And it might cost you $7,000, $8,000 and you'll never see it because you're saving $50 a month over a year, $600 that you just paid $7,000, $8,000 for. When I have those conversations and I break down the numbers and I show them and I'm like, look, here's the numbers. It's like, now you tell me, if you were gonna guide me, would you tell me to pay this to save this? I'm like, it's counterproductive. It doesn't make any sense. But you get the pretty rate, right? It's like, think about it for a minute. Like save your money, and a lot of that too is where people come to me and they're like, hey, I want to do 20% down, or I want to do 40% down. It's like, why would you do that? Liquid is gold, man. It's like, use liquid to do other things with.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the things that a lot of people get confused is with that first-time home buyer, or if you're moving houses, everybody wants to do 20%. I would say if you can leverage the absolute heck out of yourself, because we are talking about building wealth here, right? I sell houses for a living. I do this for a living. I live in it, I eat in it, and I sleep in it, quite frankly. I dream about my job. My career is just one of those things. I absolutely don't think somebody should tie up absolutely all of their expendable funds in a house. I don't. And that may be a hot take to somebody.
Right.
I just don't. I don't. It's almost like buying a car cash that's brand new. Why would you do that unless you're somebody that needs a write-off in Q4?
Right.
I think that's the one case where
that's the only time that you would want to use that, right?
Justifiable. But I think there's a lot of people that get it. There's a misconception that you need to put 20%, 30%. I heard somebody the other day say they wanted to put 50% into a home.
I had a guy on a $750,000 property wanted to do 50%. And I'm like, why would you do that? I'm like, well, I don't want to pay all that additional interest. I'm like, but let's look at the interest. And I go, here's the thing. You're fine with getting rid of that money, right? So why wouldn't you reinvest that money if it actually made money? And it's going to make more than that interest that you're trying to save. And I think people just get into their heads, or they're scared of investing and they don't know how. There's a million different people that'll help you invest it, and they'll take a little bit off the top. But if that money's sitting in your bank account, it's not making any money for you anyway, right? Use that money. The top 1%, they're not using their money for anything. They're using the bank's money.
Mike, what do you do again?
I've been in business for myself for a little bit over 25 years. I started DirecTV installation company years ago. That was a super successful company with one of my buddies named Bobby, and we killed it, completely crushed it until 2018. I got into mortgages because it was so successful that they didn't need me on a day-to-day basis. And so I was bored, right? So I'm like, I got to get into something else because time is money. I'm like, I'm young. I'm like, I have all this energy. I've got to get into something else to make more money because this one's taken care of. And that's when I got into mortgages. But I also am a FEMA flood adjuster. I've been doing that for 15 years. So I deal on that side, and I've grown that business. So when it comes to businesses, I know how to grow them. I know how to make them make money. and I know how to leverage money, right? And that's one of the things where as I take that information in and I'm dealing with borrowers, I have education that your other mortgage broker is not going to have, especially when it comes to self-employed, right? When it's a self-employed borrower is like, they don't understand all the nuances of everything to deal with taxes, how to use your money. With some of the tax write-offs that the Trump administration has this year, it's huge. If you're a self-employed guy, it's absolutely huge because now you get 100% of your write-offs. If I decide to buy a property this year, I get to use every bit of that property as a write-off against my business. And so there's a lot of different stuff like that, but they're not getting that from just Mortgage Joe down the street. I've lived it, I breathed it, like Gabe said. I sleep it, I eat it. I mean, I eat all of it, right? But business is my forte. And so when it comes to money and guiding people on the best thing that they can do with their money, especially when it comes to home buying, if it's a first-time home buyer, if it's an investor, if it's somebody that's buying their 10th house, I can guide that guy like nobody else. At least that's my take on it.
I would say it's the most rewarding thing working with either a first-time home buyer, because first-time home buyers are people who haven't bought a lot of homes, are typically the people that are most engaged in everything that I have to pour into them. The people that have bought 5, 6, I've even worked with people that have bought 12 houses. It's a lot harder to get your message through. And being somebody like myself that all I want to do is help you, and I'm a very strong-willed person, so I will do everything to make sure you make the right decision based on what we've talked about up until that point. And I think that's been one of the most difficult things in this market, especially. It's like, well, back in 2017, this is what we did, and this is what mortgage rates were at, and this, and this. And it's like, guys, we're in the present. We're in the 2025 market. Yeah. And I think you have to have, one, somebody that's very active, but two, somebody that can hold you accountable, and three, understand entirely what you're getting yourself into.
Right. And like I said, have a realistic expectation. I had a phone call yesterday. The gentleman was so upset just because they've had credit history problems, and recently, right, within the last 12 months. And, his credit isn't where it needs to be. But you're trying to explain this, and he's upset at the system. Well, it's like, look, accountability. You created these issues, nobody else did, right? It's like, if you didn't pay your bills on time, you can't expect the mortgage company to hand over hundreds of thousands of dollars to you based on on a promise like today, hey, I got it together, now I'm good. But when you're hit